How are all of you doing? Let me just wait for a few more minutes to see where we are. And okay, I think we are live at this point in time. And welcome. If you're just joining us, coming in right now, I just while we wait for questions, I'd like you to type in your questions if you have any questions for me in this spontaneous Q&A. If not, I'm going to talk about the shadow. Hi, good morning. Good morning, Clara. Okay, so if you have any questions, please post them in the comment section. I'll be happy to answer them. In the meantime, I want to talk about something that I posted yesterday on both Instagram and on Facebook, talking about the shadow work, all right, and why it is so important to do shadow work, because it is a huge neglected part of spiritual growth for many. And so people are doing lots of meditations, lots of spiritual activations, but find that they may not be going anywhere. They're not progressing. They're not making any headway spiritually, or maybe they think they are, which is the part where the new age glamour steps in, to make you believe that you are. You see, this is how glamour works, right? In the spiritual movement, make you believe that you are more advanced than you are, or make you believe that you are not as advanced as you are, right? And it's usually the extremes, and it doesn't really if you do not have the awareness, you do not work on your shadow, you do not work on your stuff that's going on within your psychology, then you will find it is very hard to hit that balance point where you have an accurate and true perspective of yourself. And when you have a false perspective of who you are and the level of your consciousness and how it functions, then you find that progress gets really challenging, and you can stay in the same spot. You feel like a hamster on a wheel, just running and running and running, and not making any headway, and you find yourself being stuck. Now, in any spiritual growth, whether you're religious, whether you are into new age stuff, whether you are into, I don't know, all kinds of different ideology, the key to progress, right? Whether you're a Christian, you're Buddhist, or Muslim, or Hindu, or new agey person, the psychology is really the key. Without the foundation of your psychology, you would take information, right, spiritual information, into your mind, and the shadow, the parts of yourself that are unknown to you, you do not know that this is, how it functions. You do not know that, in the unconscious, it may be influencing you and telling you things, guiding you towards information and things that really do not serve you, and could actually be taking you further away from your path, right? And so shadow work is really so important, right? So welcome everyone who has just joined us. While waiting for your questions, I'm just talking about shadow work and how important shadow work is. So I'd like to invite you to ask your questions. And questions, you can ask questions of a personal nature as well. So we'll tune into your own spirit guides or universal guides to see what kind of guidance they can give you. And whatever you may be going through at this time, you may be very challenged, and let's see what kind of guidance. Now, bear in mind that these guidance are not predict the future type of guidance, all right? We don't do predict the future. It's more about how to work on yourself, your psychology, the areas to focus on. Maybe you're going through a crisis, what is it that you can do to help yourself, right? These are the kind of questions that I would encourage you to ask. And how you ask is also very important. Be as clear as possible. Do not be vague. If your question is vague, then the answers are going to be vague. This is how it works. This is how energy works. And so the more open you are, the more in-depth you would like the answer to be, then the more in-depth your question should be. Right? I'm not saying that, tell me your whole life story in your comments, but don't give me a vague question like, how should I deal with my current situation? All right, that is super vague. Okay, that's not going to get us any answers. Right, so while we wait for your questions, and I like to, continue with talking about, shadow work and how important shadow work is. Now, shadow work is an area that is not very popular with spiritual practitioners, basically because it requires work. It requires one to look deeper into self. It requires one to acknowledge, and to do shadow work, you must have the courage to be able to face yourself, to face your inner demons. And it's not a demon where you can just say a prayer and wish it away, because it has this deep, dark roots within your own psyche, within your consciousness, and it drives you. It drives your motivations, it drives your intentions, and a lot of times shadow work is really, you're not aware that it is really the engine, right, that runs your consciousness and your intentions. So let me just give you some basic example, right? I mean, if you are a type of person that is very caring, right, you care about people, and you always have this drive to want to do your best for people, you want to help them, you feel like, wow, someone is in trouble, and you want to jump in to help. Now, I would highly encourage you to also, I'm not saying to stop helping, continue helping, but you must understand what is the driver or the engine behind your good intentions. And to explore this takes courage. It takes a lot of taking down the barriers that you have, around you, and also not to be so easily offended. So I could say to someone who does good all the time, and if I were to probe them further and ask them, what is your intention behind your intention? They could get offended, right? They could jump at me and say, what do you mean? You're questioning my good intentions. Where are you coming from? You're not a good person. You're not a nice person because you're questioning my intentions. Now, when someone has a huge reaction like this, it's a significant sign that there is shadow energy running behind their good intentions. All right. Now, first of all, when, let's say, if I'm in a position to question someone, I'm not doubting their goodness, right? But what I am simply pushing them into the direction of is to question and to understand their intentions, the deeper intentions behind their intentions, and to question, like, why do I feel a need to save people, to help people? Where is that need coming from? And if they explore further, they may find that this need comes from a sense of maybe, due to childhood trauma, unhealed stuff, right? They feel like they need to jump in to help because something happened when they were young and they were helpless. They were not able to help, their loved ones, their family. And so now in the world that they live in, they feel that they have a responsibility to jump in to help. Right? And so if you don't know that this is the energy that is running through all your good intentions, sometimes what will happen is you help someone, right, with all your good intentions, you help them, but it's not a two-way street. So the person is like, okay, yeah, you want to help me, but I don't really want your help. And so if you don't question your own intentions, you will feel really offended that your help is not being received. And that is a big time trigger for you because you feel like, oh, people are so ungrateful. I'm trying to help them, and this is what I get, right? And so when you start to go into this mode of operation, it just shows you exactly where your shadow energy is. It shows you exactly where your imbalance and your unhealed stuff is. Why do you need someone to show gratitude to you? Where is that coming from, right? Question that. It is really, really important to be able to have total honesty and courage to work with this, okay? So let me just look at Ruth's question here. And Ruth says, I've been looking for 3 years to move. Every time we look for a place and find an area, a fire destroys the surrounding area, or there's some disaster in the city, we continue to do research, but it seems like there is no message not to move. Okay, so the universe speaks to us, right? And when, I would encourage you to listen to the promptings from the universe, and firstly, maybe to reevaluate why you would like to move. And maybe the timing is not right for you to move. And if the universe, right, your surroundings, is showing you that every time you make a decision about wanting to do something, then something stops you. Something powerful like a fire, right, stops you from going where you want to go, then it is a sign not to go, right, which is what you have done. And I would say put it on hold for the time being and look around you in your current surroundings, like perhaps there are certain things that you are not seeing that may be beneficial for you at this point in time, that may be of great use to you, that could help, serve your purpose. It could help you in your personal development. It could be a resource that you may not be seeing at the moment, or it could be something that you have a fear of facing, and maybe it's time to face those fears, right? So, Ruth, I would say that the most important thing is to listen to the promptings from nature, right? Mother Nature doesn't piss around when it comes to giving us, messages and giving us promptings. She really doesn't piss around, and she will show us exactly, right, exactly what we need to do. And so, with all that has happened in the past 3 years, she's showing you exactly that you need to stay put for the time being. That's not to say that you have to stay there permanently. Sometimes it could be a temporary measure, and to us 3 years may be a long time, but to the universe 3 years is just equivalent of 1 second maybe. We don't know, right? So listen to the promptings. Okay, listen, because there are many things in life that we really cannot control. As much as we want to plan our lives, we also need to have a bit within us where we get comfortable with surrendering, right? Because I think a big part of being human is learning to juggle, how to surrender and how to plan and then to surrender simultaneously. It is quite difficult. It's like learning to ride a bike constantly, right? And it's not an easy thing for people to do because, we have been taught so much that we need to like our life is in our hands, right? The kind of dramatic personal transformational talks that you go for, but that's not for everyone, right? We need to understand that, even though like in the advertising, in all the talks that they do, and they always tell you, they push this agenda and tell you that your life is in your hands. You need to plan. If you don't have it planned, then you are a loser, and and all of that. And we buy into that because the advertising is very appealing. But we need to strike that balance, I feel, right? I mean, we need to learn, we need to educate ourselves to learn how to plan. That's really, really important. But at the same time, we need to learn how to surrender. So some of us are fantastic planners, terrible at surrendering. Some of us completely surrender without any planning. So two extremes, right? So the key is really the balance. We need both, right? I mean, we are human living on this planet, and this planet is huge, right? There's tremendous energy on this planet, and there's no way we can control, you know, the agenda of the planet. There's no way we can control the climate. There's no way we can control, you know, the temperature, right? I mean, we can do what we can, you know, and we have to adapt accordingly. And that's really the key. I mean, being human is many things. It's not just one thing, right? So many things includes like, yes, go for your motivational talks. Yes, go for your meditation. Yes, go, you know, do all these things, combine them together and live a complete life, right? Being alive doesn't mean that you just look at life from just one slice of the pie, right? Life offers so much more, and we need to be really open to that, all right? So, Ruth, I apologize, I have digressed, but I hope you understand where I'm coming from and, you know, what I mean, okay? All right. Okay, I thought I saw a question, but it disappeared. Let me just relaunch this page. Okay. Any questions? Please post them in the comment section. I think that particular question was deleted. You want to post it again so that I can have a look? There's some lag time, so I do want to let you know and be aware of that. There's some lag time, so I may not see your question immediately, but I will be able to see it. It will come up. Okay. You're most welcome, Ruth. Okay. Okay, so you have a question. So there's an error, so you're retyping it. Yes, not a problem. Carry on to retype. Anyone else has a question, please feel free to post your question here, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. In the meantime, I want to continue to talk about shadow work, right? So shadow work takes bravery, takes courage, and this is something I want to encourage spiritual practitioners to integrate more into their consciousness, to have more courage, you know, and to understand that not everything is love and light. And trying to love and light things away is like you trying to stick your head into the ground like an ostrich and not wanting to see what's really going on. There's also, you know, a lot of talk in spiritual communities where they say, you know, I only have God within me, and so with God I can, you know, I work through things, you know, I don't have to worry, God will protect me. Yes, God will protect you, but the thing is, your demons are inside you, your own inner demons are inside you, and that's something that God can protect you from, because it's inside you. And these inner demons has a lot to do with psychology, right? I mean, they're not demonic beings. I'm not saying that there are demons living in you. What I'm saying is these inner demons are the darkest psychological part within yourself that you are not aware of. And so, you know, you may ask for all the protection that you want, but if you don't know that your own dark sides are attracting, unconsciously attracting dark experiences to yourself, dark encounters to yourself, disguised as good things, then you have lost the plot in a sense, because if you don't know your enemies in a way, right? If you don't know your enemies, you can't fight. You can fight this inner war, right, with yourself. Because, I mean, in any wars, in any fights that we may have, you must know your enemy. And most of the time, our own enemy is within ourselves, right? It's our own psychology, it's our own unconscious, it's our own hidden parts of self that we are completely unaware of. You know, we don't know that it exists. We don't know that it runs us. We don't know there is this engine, you know, that is running our consciousness. So we really have to have the courage and the gumption to really look at ourselves, to look and to be honest, right? I think um, in spiritual movements and religions, we talk so much about being honest, being a good person, to have honesty. But the problem with this is not that people are consciously being dishonest, it's always the unconscious energy that is making us dishonest, right? It is the unconscious. It is the unconscious driver. It is the engine that is, driving us to do certain things. And if we're not aware and we don't question, then we find ourselves covering lies upon lies, not consciously, right? So I see a lot of religious people do this, right? I mean, they are sometimes they're my clients, my acquaintances, people I see in general who proclaim to be of a certain religion and who are very proud of their religion, which is fine. I mean, I completely respect that. And in the same breath, right, as they are talking about how religious they are and how much they love God, they are also lying to themselves, right? And it's not obvious to them because it is a shadow energy running. Okay. Now, this question here from Clara. I'm in a period of crossroads now due to the COVID restrictions. My teaching freelance job has been put on hold. It makes me wonder if I should apply for a full-time job, as that would give me more financial security. I'm confused because right before this restriction happened, I was doing well and also managed to be officially employed by a reputable company. Is there any message that my spirit guides would like me to know during the state of limbo? All right. So I think, your statement about being in the state of limbo is very, very accurate in a description of the kind of energies that we're facing right now, for you personally, as well as for many people, right, on the planet, and especially for those who are awakening, spiritually awakening. You find yourself in a state of limbo. And this state of limbo is a time for self-introspection, right? As much as we want to do self-introspection, I'm aware that we do have survival needs, all right? And in this survival needs, we need to know exactly, what should we do, right? So, which comes first, right? So this is a question that, a lot of people struggle with. And I always tell people that without survival needs, you can't be in a right state for introspection, right? So what comes first? Your material needs will have to come first at this point in time. It may not be permanent, but do what you need to do for survival. And then when you are in a state where you're much more balanced for survival reasons, then you'll be able to do all the introspection that you want, all the meditation, and but bear in mind also, this difficult period that you're facing, right, emotionally and mentally, it's an opportunity to also get to know yourself. So it's concurrently, at the same time while you're, looking for a new job, like go into like, how am I feeling about this? What are my fears? Feel into your fears, be comfortable with the fears. And then when you're in a new environment, let's say a full-time job, and you're in there, right? Go into like, okay, why am I here? Maybe there's something that I need to learn. Maybe there's some resource that I can accumulate. Maybe it's a skill that I can pick up that I will be able to utilize later down the road, right? So all these things about self-introspection can be done even when you have to deal with the mundane in inverted commas, right? Which is like survival needs, and it's totally okay. The confusion, I find that, this confusion usually happens with people on a spiritual path, because a part of them deep down, right, they want to follow the path that is right for them. And so there's a real struggle, like, if I surrender to my spiritual path, will I be provided for, right? And so these sort of limbo, right, choosing between spiritual path, spiritual journey, or doing what is practical will surface all the time when you're on the path of personal development or spiritual development. It will constantly come up. It's not just come up once and then you have all the answers for the rest of your life. It doesn't happen that way. It happens to me all the time, right? Me on a path, I've been on a spiritual path for 30 years, and I've been a spiritual teacher and a healer for 20 years. And during this entire period, there's always this, this thing. And sometimes, right, depending on my situation, sometimes I choose the practical over the spiritual. Sometimes I choose the spiritual over the practical. It really depends on the situation you are in, and it really depends on the circumstances, whether you have the financial resource or not. If you do have the financial resource to keep up with, following the spiritual path, then go for it. But if you do not, right, and it's a question of survival, you need food on the table, then this is where you need to go for the practical, right? And it will come up over and over again. And it's the idea that, the understanding that it comes up because we are always growing, and when we reach a new level of our personal development, usually these sort of things will come up. It's like you're thrown into the deep end of the pool again, right? And why? For learning. You struggle, right? You try to breathe, keep your head above water, okay, I'm struggling, I'm trying to survive here. And so you're being tested, right? And the test can manifest in so many different ways. And so I know that if you go to some spiritual guidance, right, they may tell you to just go with spirit. They may just tell you that. And have no fear, you're too afraid, and that's why you're not taking the plunge, and that's why. I personally do not quite believe in that, because I don't think a person can truly be in a state of surrender if they are truly struggling financially or truly struggling with survival needs. If you look at the world right now, right, people who are living in poverty, how many of people living, how many can say that they are surrendering? Right? I mean, truly surrendering. Surrendering is a choice, right? Surrendering is when you have all your, it's easy to surrender when you have everything. It's easy to surrender when you have financial stability. It's easy to surrender. But I feel that we live in this world, in a practical world, so we need to strike that balance to care for our practical needs as well as our spiritual needs, and to strike that balance. And as you make progress, you'll be able to see that balance. You'll be able to make better decisions as to okay, when do I go forward or when do I fall back into the practical, right? So you must make the adjustments and not just stick to one forever. It's not just one over the other. You make a decision now and that's the decision for the rest of your life. It doesn't work that way. It's always adjusting. And so you need to pivot, right? You need to make your adjustments and say, okay, where's my balance point at this time? Is this my balance point? Okay, so what is happening now? Let's say my survival needs comes first, then my survival needs comes first. Go for that. And then when you reach a point of stability, then you tilt the balance back into more spiritual things, right? And I think far too many people also think that if you're on a spiritual path, you have to do spiritual work. No, spiritual work is not for everyone, right? It's not for everyone. Some of us are, we serve differently, right? It doesn't mean that everyone has to be a healer, everyone has to be a spiritual teacher. No, it doesn't work that way. Okay, I hope that this answers your question, Clara. It gives you some clarity in the direction that you want to take. If you want, you know, more clarity, do ask me, you know, to clarify for you. Anyone else has a question you like to send to me? Just post them in the comment so that I can answer you. In the meantime, let me have a sip of my drink. Okay, so this is a live Q&A for those of you who have just joined us. If you have a question, please post them. You're welcome, Clara. Please post them, and I'll wait a few more minutes before I end this live. And you know, working on our shadow, you know, I'm just going to keep talking about this until more people do it. So if you find that I'm nagging about it, I'm sorry, but I feel that people really need to do this because, you know, I mean, with the pandemic also, you see a lot of spiritual people have gone a little bit off tangent because of their shadow, and then they go into conspiracy theory, which is really based on illusion. Some of them, I'm not saying all, and then they buy into the whole idea, lock, stock, and barrel, to the point of being lost, you know, and buying into these ideas like, which are completely not practical, which are completely not in alignment with the spiritual agenda at all. And so, and what drives that? For many, okay, I think many spiritual people will not be happy if I say this, for many is really the unhealed child. It is the inner child consciousness that's running around rampant, thinking that the world is against them, thinking that, you know, coming up with conspiracy theory because they have not resolved the inner issues with their mother or their father. It is the unhealed, wounded child that usually plays or relishes, enjoys conspiracy theories, right? Think about it, all right? So if you have a friend, now we do this without judgment, as an observation and learning for yourself, right? Now, if you have a friend who buys into conspiracy theory, who is into this sort of thing, if you observe them, and you will see that they have unresolved issues with parents growing up, and also the wounded child, right? And so through observation, you will see that what I'm saying is true. All right, I'm just asking you to observe, right? And you make up your own mind. And I'm putting this information, what I'm saying here, right? And my reputation is on the line, but I'm saying it because this is how consciousness works. This is how psychology is like. You know, the unhealed part of us would latch into something that gives us meaning, or gives us someone or something to blame for what is wrong with our lives. And the unhealed, wounded child will never take responsibility for self. It's always other people, right? Other people are at fault. Other people cause us pain. Other people are, you know, and all of that. So a lot of this goes on in the spiritual arena. And why? Because spiritual arena has become an escape ground. Many people use spirituality to escape from problems. And, you know, the more of these people go into these environments to escape from their problems and to escape from their past, to escape from their wounds, a lot of people jump into this pool, right? So what they're going to do is they're going to feed each other, and they're not only feed each other, but they're going to support each other in their ideology and their beliefs. And so it's difficult to get out of it, and they're not able to see beyond that. They're not able to see beyond this energy matrix that has trapped them in this kind of thinking. right? So I always encourage my students, right? Always look at life from a full perspective, from different angles, right? So on Wednesday, I did a class on, the shadow and light of toxic femininity. And I talk about how important it is to see, even with COVID, right? We need to see from a broader perspective. We need to see from our personal perspective how it impacts us personally as a person. We need to see from a broader perspective how it impacts our community, what should be done. And for community, what should be done can be very different from your own ideas or ideals. And sometimes you may need to go with what is needed for the community, right? So like on a personal level, if you don't believe in wearing masks, for example, just an example, but for the community, for the greater good, you do need to, which is, beneficial for the community, right? This is just an example. So looking at COVID, maybe even from the country level, how do you see that? How the country has to balance what needs to be done for the citizens, and then take that further to see your region, like which continent you're coming from, what needs to be done, and see that from the earthly perspective, right? If you look at it from an earthly perspective, the COVID is nothing personal. It's just a living organism flushing out things that no longer works. It's not personal. It's not a personal attack against us. It's nothing to do with us, in a sense. It's not a personal relationship. It's just a living organism looking at it and saying, you know what, there is all these things that's not working on my body. Let's introduce some virus to kick out some stuff, right? And it's completely non-personal. And if we want to take that perspective even further from a galactic perspective or universal perspective, you're going to come up with something different entirely. So we need to look at things always from multi perspectives and to see how the world functions, and not just our little worldview. And we see things from our little worldview, we will always and forever be a victim of our circumstances, of everything that is happening. We feel like, oh, poor me, I'm so victimized. And that's not the way to be as a human being, right? We need to really widen our scope. Okay, widen our scope. All right. Okay, let me just look at yeah. Okay. Completely see your point, Clara. Hi, Shahida. Good morning. And okay, so my comments are coming in a bit late, so I'm just looking at them now. Thank you, for for sharing your thoughts and for participating in today's live. I hope to do this, once every 2 weeks, if I can, to do it once every week. Let's see how. I will give you advance notice, when this is happening, so that you can prep yourself. And I will hopefully see all of you soon. Do invite your friends, people who are in alignment with this sort of thinking and who would be happy to participate and join us in this live. And the recording will be up here. Those of you watching this as a recording, and if you have a question, please post them and I will get back to you in a comment. I will either reply as a text in the comments, or I'll do a video and post it in a comment as well. Okay, whichever is easier for me. All right. So you enjoyed this live, so that you're glad you woke up in time. Okay, excellent. Glad to have you join us. So thank you everyone for being with us this morning, and I wish you all the best, sending you lots of love and light, and do stay safe. All right, and I'll see all of you again very soon. God bless you. Namaste.